they all seem to be obsessed with Orion, more than any of the other ones. And of course, Orion is always pointing to the Pleiades, and these could be very two big influences on our human species. Where, I mean, and we don't know, but I really feel like genetics, eugenics has happened before on this planet. I mean, they're kind of doing it again anyway. And another thing that I was discovering is that Orion can be connected with the Tree of Life, the Kabbalah Tree of Life.
It is.
And the more you kind of look into the influence of Orion on not just ancient civilizations, but to I mean, what do we call them? The predator class, the global elites that are, trying to overturn everything. They are also obsessed with Orion, and
well, it's because they're part of Orion, and the link to it is very obvious once you start digging into it. And it's sorry, I had to drink of water. I just got out of the bathtub. It felt good. But yeah, definitely it is connected and linked to the Kabbalah, and it's unfortunate because they've taken the Kabbalah with a K. I mean, there's two different spellings to it. There's the one with the C, there's the one with the K. And they've linked it to Saturn, and are using it like the Metatron, which is Saturn energy, and also the black box. It's, the black box you see in Islam, the cube. And they've turned it into like this worship of really, they've turned it into Satanism, basically. It wasn't Satanism before. And so, yeah, we are going to talk about like what is going on with all of that, and how actually the true Kabbalah, the true Tree of Life, which is, it's actually here to help us. It's not here to not to enslave us. But, the Freemasons use it, the Illuminati use it, and they keep it for secret societies for themselves to, have their agenda, which is a reenactment of Orion's wars in the previous times. And Orion is considered to be the hunter, and he's actually considered a giant. And so we're looking at, giants that were here before and were destroyed, and they're actually in the Bible. And what happened was basically Orion has been turned into Osiris, Isis. It's the same thing. And you can look at it when you are looking at what is it? I lost my train of thought because I wanted to pull up a picture. Whoa, how's that happening? I don't know if that's me or if that's you.
It's the AI. So definitely with the Orion energy, I've been looking kind of into human history past, even back into the galacticness of it. Sorry, my dog had like this bone. And Orion seems to be sort of this place, okay, with polarity and with conflict, that is never quite resolved, and then bringing that energy here. So we're constantly fighting amongst ourselves, but within ourselves because of this Orion energy, this polarity. And obviously we're here in polarity. We materialize in a polarity within ourselves, the masculine, feminine, but also with two different sexes in our race. So there's a polarity right there too. But the Orion influence is I was really kind of confused how it had anything to do with Saturn, really. You know what I mean? Except for Saturn sometimes comes in front of this constellation. But within that tree of life in the Cabal, with it utilizing not only Orion, but it utilizing Saturn, somehow has infiltrated that energy of the portal. And I'm still just kind of wrapping my head around that a little bit. Because
they are saying that it's a wormhole, right? That's what they believe it to be, and that it's actually creating stars, and that our own eye is actually also a wormhole, and it's connected to that because it's all these lenses and mirrors that the moon and the sun are reflecting, and so when you look at the Albion giants, the sun and the moon is a part of the Orion story, which is the giants and the Titan War that ended the giants here on this planet. And all of this is, geared towards these giants that used to be here on this planet. And it's even in the Bible. It talks about Orion underneath Amos 5:8, I think is what it is. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but how Orion made this deal, basically Osiris and Set. We've talked about this before, where Orion controls the underworld. It's this dark, Kabbalistic, tetrahedron Saturn influence of where Orion gets to work with the dead things in the world. And in this photo here, you can see that this is the tarot card on the right hand side, and that's the Fool, and that's the 22 numbered card, which is also, you have like 22 bones in your head. It's interlinked with the Kabbalistic tree, and it's also linked with the Trinity, which is also the Son, the God, the Father, right, or the Holy Ghost, or if you want to look at it, masculine, feminine, and then the unconscious. So these are all correlated with these wars that have been happening. Oh, hello, Matthew. Welcome, and welcome all that have showed up. Anyways, yeah. So actually, Matthew has quite a bit of he has quite a bit of memory of this time of his life. Not in this lifetime, but just in previous lifetimes. And his brother, actually, Hephaestus, he's the god of metal, and he's the reason why we have robots and technology, all this stuff that we would consider to be, new to us and not necessarily something very normal anymore. But, it has to do with these robots, that are on this planet, that we're starting to see. And it's not necessarily artificial intelligence, or even a robot. We're looking at more of the Artemis moon influence, blended by Apollo, who wakes up again. And Hephaestus is this god that was sitting on Orion's shoulder, helping him, to get back to the sun, which is where he'll be awake again. Because right now, that's what's happening to us. We're in this darkness of Artemis, which is the moon, and we're now looking at a lot of death happening based on this alien intelligence that is being used, and has been resurrected. Literally has been resurrected in many different forms. And now we're looking at, that the death of the giants is now recapitulating, which I think, Miriah, you're talking about. Matthew, are you there?
Yeah.
I just want to see if he's there.
We're
Go ahead.
We're listening to Poppy's field project, and our other podcaster has just joined us. Matthew, I wasn't sure if you want to jump in here at all. We're talking about Orion and its influence on our sovereignty, on our past history, our present. Orion, the constellation, but we feel there's an influence here, especially Nova was just bringing up the robot part, and that's, I mean, they're like, oh, it's inevitable, like we have to have robots and all this AI, and a lot of the predator class, of course, if you think about it, history tells us that we might be a product. We were the slave race created to do the work. And, we've evolved humans to where like, we better kill them off because they can build robots. They can replace the slave labor with the robots. And that the robot energy is that Orion energy. It's not really organic. It's far from like the humanoid, the loving part. It's very domination. It's very Darth Vader even. That it's not necessarily a good influence, especially if it can go rogue, obviously, and it could become powerful, especially, and then humans become obsolete. So that's why, they need less to do the work. And I've always even as a child, my grandpa has told me, don't let the robots take over and the computers and the machines, very Terminator. But we see that now we're in this area, and we were talking about this last week a little bit. The other fear of this robotic world and this AI is they want to merge our organicness with machine, probably in a way so we when we die, they're after our souls in order to merge us with machine, making us less and less human is kind of the agenda. And I'm going to stop talking now for a moment.
Well, hey guys, just wanted to jump in. Sorry I came in late today. I'm Matthew, and you're listening to Poppy's Field Project here on a lovely Wednesday night on the beginning of November, end of November 2nd. So
I can't believe it's November. What happened to October?
It's gone. It's in the past. And,
It
that's
is.
subjugation of time, honestly. I mean, we're looking at time, and it goes faster and slower. And I think, again, time, maybe we'll talk about that a little more at the end of the series or possibly on another one. That actually would be a great podcast series, is time as a topic. But, in terms of what we're talking about now and the times that we're looking at, and our conversation tonight with being, Orion and stuff, and specifically robots, I think there's a lot of correlations. And as we've learned, the robotic energy is not necessarily new. It's been around. It's been around for a while. And so it's not like it's something that is going to be controlling us or anything like that. Again, it's almost like a new species. When we were discovering the worlds back in the day before we had planes, trains, and automobiles, it was like you saw somebody with different skin and you were like, whoa, what is that? And it's really just another person with the same DNA. I think it's not the same, but similar with robots too, because they exist in their own plane, in their own realm, and they were also created as a slave race, just like human beings,
Yes.
just like the Zeta Reticuli, just like other mammal-like beings. Like, a lot of these were created through this Orion lineage to be these slave beings. And so there's this hodgepodge all over the map of, beings that are free, some that are slaves, some that are on sovereign planets, some that are totally like bogged down in complete control and monarchies and such. Like it's an entire plethora of all of it. And so that's kind of the game board we're looking at when we're talking about Orion. It's not just a simple this or that. Orion is complex, and it's not like there's like one being that comes from Orion. There are thousands of beings, just like there's thousands of insects and thousands of types of people on planet Earth. It's like that up in the stars too. And so that's the playing field we're talking about when we're talking about it with Orion, but it has a deep threaded history that deeply ties into not everybody, but many people here on planet Earth, since we are in the Orion system. So, yeah, there it is. There's the chessboard. Like, what are we going to do about it?
Well, that's a whole nother topic, because this is something, if it's been repeating over and over and over again, and, because all I see is, especially on Telegram, are people that are like, oh, it's Satan, it's, it's evil, it's the elite, it's the government. They're not really understanding where the history is coming from, and that this is an ancient, old, old time, to where even the Hopi Indians were aware of it, and even let's say the Stonehenge, they were involved with giving homage or worshiping Orion. And so it's like, it's these, humanity hasn't gotten past, worshiping or warship, right? Like, think of a ship of war. That's what this word means, is that we are still reenacting this timeline. And if the Kabbalah, the actual tree of life, not the elite that are, everyone claims to be Satanist and blah blah blah. We're talking about the actual tree of life, which is how we fall from soul into matter, and coming out of Orion's nebula, and that is basically a laser. And that if we want to get back up, we got to go through all of these channels of consciousness, all of these, being able to forgive one another, because we're looking at, many, many, many lifetimes of the same reenactment. And I'm going to share this one picture here that shows that even the Hopi were also worshiping, the Orion constellation. And if you're familiar with Lakotas, on the bottom here, you'll see in this kind of where there's a group of looks like clowns. Those are considered to be tricksters. They are a part of Orion. And whoa. And so they were, constantly, aware of that this Polynesian Hyoka Joker was something that they needed to honor, to gain freedom within themselves, because otherwise they're just going to continue to reenact. And I don't know, are the indigenous people considered to be like the Aboriginals? I don't know if they are. Would you think that they are? Anybody?
I'd say the Aboriginals equivalent to the Native Americans in these states. They are the beings that have been there, just like the Polynesians in Indonesia, the Hawaiians living in
Right.
Hawaii. You know, like they were the ones who have lived or been existing there naturally rather than like colonization efforts, which is kind of more of in the last 1,000 years kind of thing.
The Aboriginals are a offshoot of the Olmec. And you know the Olmec that are shown in South America, I think, right? The big stone monuments of faces that are shown there, because ancient civilizations definitely roamed the earth, and the Olmec were a remnant of what survived after Atlantis. And despite what you know about the dinosaurs, Atlantis was a huge empire that was all about mind control because they had learned the higher realms. You have to realize that our junk DNA is not junk. It's when our consciousness rises that they connect, and that then as we connect through that frequency, we'll be able to manifest immediately. We'll be able to have telepathy. We'll be able to have all the things that we all want, but we have to be able to learn to forgive everybody and learn the paradox of forgiveness, or we will never, ever ascend. We will never, ever ascend in our genetics, because you've got to manifest that in your genetics now, or your children will not have it. And that's the whole point. Everything is based in this reality. And we've got to realize that despite how evil some people can be, and how evil others evolved world can be to us, we need to rise up in our power, to be the best that we can be, so that our progeny has the best effort to ward off any bullshit, and also grow in the most beautiful ways here on planet Earth, because the frequency of this Earth is called Midgard. We're called Midgard on a purpose, meaning that we are the Midgard from the lower and upper astrals and the lower and upper planes. And if you don't do anything about that, well, it's up to you. I yield.
Really, thank you for that. It's a good point, because that is a part of it, is forgiveness. Go ahead, Miriah. I think you were trying to say something.
Oh, no, that's okay. I guess not necessarily particular. When you were showing the pictures of the jokesters, it's definitely like the ones, and here's a picture here of the ones from Patagonia. The indigenous people of the very tip of Patagonia, they were genocide. A few of them were brought to a human zoo in Europe. And if you can see the pictures here, they had the most elaborate, but you showed me that picture, you showed us that picture with those jokesters, that of being of Orion energy, right? Like, and so the ones I was showing was that super red. They like use really red, dark red paint to make these creatures, and they were illustrating all these different star people that came down at different times, and then there were so many different like types of species. Like when I was a kid watching like Lord of the Rings, it was like, oh my God, like those type of thing, and that's such a tangent. Those type of stories are kind of based off of some real stuff though, because all those species have been kind of found to have existed. The elves and the trolls, in some form or other on this planet at some point. So, I mean, and that's just in this physical world on Earth. So you could only imagine the different forms of the different creatures coming from different star systems, if that's the case. Me and Nova are even looking up the Vega star, the beings that come from there. Oh my goodness! And you're like, well, what? I mean, almost anything isn't. Let me see if I can find this picture. Almost anything isn't made up in this planet anymore. It's based off of something else. They straight up look like
Yes.
walruses and Squidward from Futurama, if you know that animated show, American show. And I mean, humanoid always, but very, very distinct and different. And what diversity we could really have. And here they try to paint, this racism on everybody. And when, there's so much more going on than that. And it's good to bring that up too. Like we have to figure it down here so we can even interact with any of these things. Most people can't even fathom it. Most people, what we're talking about now, they would have shut off or tuned out a long time ago. So I commend everybody for, this is why entertainment is going away anyway, because it's always the same. I hate fiction anymore. Served a purpose, but it's the same story. And more and more people are tuned into people having real conversations. We're just having a conversation. I'm not an expert in this. I'd like to be one day, and we're perspiring and sharing information. But I'm going to give the floor to somebody else. I was kind of rambling on there for a minute.
Well, I appreciate that because, this is a part where we need to stop calling it, all these fancy names that everyone is thinking that it is. And it's not. It's literal alien intelligence, and that has been botched out of history. I mean, you look at history, there has been many, many, many different paintings, and even in the scripture, like this one right here, where it's nothing new. It's been around. Like this one right here, seek him that maketh the seven stars, and Orion, the Lord is his name. Amos 5:8. And so we are wanting to get back to knowing who we truly are, because we are supposedly, I mean, from what we've talked about before, is that the Taurus, which is the zodiac, birthed these two suns. And Orion is just, this black hole that is birthing sun after sun after sun, and it's just repeating itself. And I really, really appreciated what Angela said, is that we do need to start forgiving, because it is in the DNA, and it is being repeated. And we're looking at a world right now that, especially on, social media, is that thinks that it's all this satanic shit. And it's like, you need to start calling it what it is. It's not satanic. That's something that that Baal made up, the religion, which is also Abel, out of Cain and Abel, and to rule and to create fear amongst the people, that there's this entity, that's going to drag you down into hell, which is Orion, and how many other different, different, like Hades. You just take the story from some other text. It's the same story. Everyone from historical standpoints in ancient religious texts have the same story. And it's the same story being repeated over and over and over and over again. And I personally, and I've talked to Matthew about this, and or Miriah, I'm personally just over it. I'm so bored with all of this. Like, I feel like I've created so many times, and now I'm just like, whatever. I just want to hang out and with my friends, and let's talk about how do we get out of here now. And during that process, we can create actual things that are going to help us move forward and heal the trauma. And like, just for example, a few days ago, I texted Miriah and Matthew, and I said, "Hey, oh my gosh, you guys, 911! I'm having an attack of the elements. That there was an element that was stuck in my uterus, and I had taken some medicine and some psychedelics, and I've had this happen before, and it was in there, and I was just like, oh, and I went and took a bath. I ended up taking some Arco and some cramp bark, and just for anyone that ever has done medicine before, and if this happens to you as a woman, I don't know if this has ever happened to a man, but you need to go release that energy, whether it be through masturbation or having sex with a partner, and take herbs that will that will go in and protect that space, and will push it out. Because as soon as I released it, within like 15-20 minutes, I had been outside before all of this, it hadn't been raining, and then I come outside and it was pouring down rain, because the elemental of the second dimension of water was trying to, because that's the womb, right? It's all this water and this emotion and the deep dark crap that is based on this maritime law that they are using to use against us. Honestly, I know it doesn't really make sense, but maritime law it's not only just law, it's the 7 principal laws, something that we've discussed before in our last podcast, which is being able to create a mental mind that is so stable, and that you are able to have the elementals just bounce right off of you, and you recognize it in your body. Because my body was in pain, and as soon as I released it, it was gone. Like, all the pain was gone. And I didn't need to take any kind of medications, which are artificial intelligence, alien intelligent medications that will just keep you more sick. And right now we're in the age of Aquarius. What that means is it's an air element. So anything that has to do with vibration, like, for example, hemisinks or binaural beats or tones, like tuning forks or prayer bowls, or the list can go on and on and on. These things are going to help you right now, as well. Water, not so much, because I noticed when I was in the water, it didn't do anything for me. And so what I did is, like, after I took that Orco, I went in and I put in some mute. I put in some sound healing, and did this whole and then when I released it with my vocal cords, like with an orgasm, it was just like bam, it was gone. Because you have to use this vibration, you have to use your voice, you have to use what tools we have. And I believe that, just like Angela was saying previously, is that we are going to be on a higher state of level where we're going to have telepathy pretty soon. And we just need to get out of this Orion bullshit, which is death.
Can I
death,
tie something in there?
Please, go ahead.
I was kind of thinking, like, in alongs with the Orion energy. So throughout humanity, we've had an entire plethora of ways to both gather and release energy, whether it's personally, religiously, collectively, universally, however it is. And a lot of what is on Earth is, in one way or another, originates or associated with Orion. And so when we're gathering, releasing, or practicing with energy, it's good to think, is this associated with a trait that's been kind of like a pastime, for a long, long time, or is this something that's me? Is this me? Is this karma? Is this, just continuing a pattern that's been around for millennia? And, when you're talking about things like, bringing in and then release, I think of how we do that. And I think part of what can give us the ability to be free and sovereign is having our own way to do that. Because our own higher selves and the angels, the demons, the other beings that are associated with us, we're all on a program, but if we break that program, we are being gods and goddesses of our own. And that is kind of the trick of this time, is to take the God seed within every single one of us and be able to manifest it, and maybe use the tools of the past, which a large percent can go back to Orion, because that's a lot of what our culture is based off of for thousands of years. But there are some that come from other cultures and from our higher selves and from other places too. And so we get that choice. And so when we get to a point where we need to release and let go of energy, a lot of times it's good to have a set intent and also have those boundaries as well, because there's a lot of beings outside of our perception, unless you're perceiving the other realms on a regular basis. But there's a lot of other beings that I would not say they originate from Orion, but I would say that they have been affiliated with that archetype, because that's the archetype we're in. It's Orion's like a city. We're all in the same city, kind of thing. They're familiar with this area. So it's good to be able to protect yourself from certain entities and energies that come out. And I think most people, especially anybody who's in tune psychically or emotionally or intuitively, we're able to pick up on these things. And we have to defend ourselves, especially when we release energy, and especially when we're close to a triangulation point of any kind, because it's a point where different dimensional beings can come in and out of easily. And so we have to set our intent very, very carefully, so that way it doesn't feed back into a similar cycle. So we're breaking a cycle rather than continuing the cycle, unless we want to continue the cycle. But for most of us here, I think we're all looking to branch out of the cycles that we've known. So yeah, that's just a thought and thing I wanted to mention in right there about what you had said.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I agree with you, and I'm going to share some technology right now that has to do with sound healing. These are the Hermetic sound, the science, the Egyptian roots of modern sound healing. And this is where we are right now with actual healing our bodies, and that we have an opportunity, since we are in the air element of Aquarius, is that we can take the zodiacs, the colors, the chakra systems, and what parts of the body do the tones, like for example, the first one here is G, and it works with the throat, your thyroid, your spinal column, back pain, hips, sciatica, enzyme production, colds, sinus, bronchitis, lungs, infections, and emotions, which is spreads self thin, sees self as not important. So, it's, forgiving yourself, forgiving your ancestors, and knowing how to use not only these tones, but understand that the zodiacs are a part of what's happening. And sometimes it's the planets inside those zodiacs. Like if you're going to have Mars in any of these zodiac signs, for example, like say Capricorn, you might have some more ringing or an earache. You might have some more toxicity in your body, or you might lack some iron. And so you want to be able to tone it into where maybe you're cooking with an iron skillet a little more. You're eating more things with with cilantro to get rid of toxicity. You'll do a colon cleanse, and then work your way up into your intestines, which could be another. I don't know if it's on here right now. I'll pull up another one. But you work your way through it. And this is what I've learned, is that over time, you just need to know where to go and what to do at that point. And it really has to do with the bottom up, because it's just like the tree of life. The tree of life is us. The Kabbalah that everyone claims is the Illuminati and all this other bullshit, Freemason crap. I'm sorry, but I'm neither one. But the tree of life is useful because it's our body. It's who we are. And so if you use it from the top or from the bottom up, you're going to be working your way up and out into higher consciousness, back to the truth, not the reality of the movie that we're on the reel, on the projector, on the screen. Which they're using. That's the Illuminati. That's the
Think about
Freemasons.
that. I just had so even like Hollywood, fake as fuck, right? They're Hollywood lights. What do they look like? They look like they're just projecting circles. I mean, they're just making fun of us at that point. You know what I mean? If it's like this projection, they're doing
Well, in
it
the circle of Saturn, right?
Yeah. So they're
and that's all they're working with.
Yeah.
Is Saturn and Mars. Saturn and Mars. It's like, no, you
Pluto.
can't work with just Saturn and Mars. Yeah, Pluto too. But you got to have all of them, in alignment. And the Egyptians, they used the sun. Even the Hopi and other ancient civilizations, because they understood the sun restarts the endocrine system. It did it for me. I did a 40-day deal where I got up with the sun every day, and I sat with it until my eyes would water. I was facing it in this one because I didn't have a whitewash wall where you look at the whitewash wall and you look at your neck and you contemplate on who you are, and it resets your endocrine system, which is the C note that I just had, I think it was, up on on these tones, is that we can't just, and if we're just watching movies all the time where it's just violence and there's no love and there's no I'm sorry, but I get it now. Why do you think that they don't share? Why they say that rated R for sex scenes, for love making? I mean, it's okay for a child to watch violence, but heaven forbid watching two people make love. Like, are you kidding me? Like, there's something wrong with that. I'm not saying that children should go around watching this stuff. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that they have an agenda, okay? That they are here pushing violence, not making love, not being happy, not loving one another. It's all Saturn energy and Mars and Pluto, which is like deep underworld, death, confusion, fighting, warriors, God bless America. We're number one. We are so proud of ourselves. Black pride, white pride, native pride, pride. It's like, whoa. what is happening right now when you look at it? They're really pushing their agenda to keep us looped into their bullshit. So we are still their slaves. And now there's too many of us. And so now they're killing us off with the mark of the beast. I mean, people don't see this inoculation as a mark of a beast, but it is. It says it right in the freaking Bible.
Yes, with your hand or on your head, one or the other. That's why a lot of Christians haven't taken any of those because they know.
So how do you think we could correlate this to Orion, the mark of the beast here on Earth now, and what are similarities between that and Orion?
The digital IDs, making everything digital, everything digital, bringing everything into it, and just that control, domination, control, very heavy masculine in the polarity, as far as this agenda is going. But yes, that digital ID, and that was a whole push. That's why, like, too, they're backing off on the mandates. They don't care because now they can roll out their technology to see, they can see it or not. Piece of paper, that was just training, you know? It was just training.
I see that we have algorithm. Arc would like to have a comment or a question. So I will put you on for allowed to speak, and then I'll mute you again because we will be opening the floor on Poppy's Field Project in probably about like another 15 minutes to a half hour. But I will go ahead and let you ask your question or make a comment. Go ahead, Arc, algorithm. Or was that a mistake? Was that a mistake? Maybe it was a mistake. Okay. Oh, we lost Matthew. Where did he go?
Oh, interesting.
Can you guys hear me? Am I here?
Oh, he's there. He's there.
Matthew, you got your video on. Matthew, you got your video on, just to let you know. Anyways,
so
we can't hear you if you're talking.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
There you go.
Like two things
then you have your video on.
I'm doing like two things at once. So yeah, keep going. I'm here.
Okay. Where were we?
Well, one thing that you were bringing up was that they use Saturn, they use Mars and Pluto, because, well, there are planets that seem to be a little nicer and more evil than others. Of course, they always have good and bad within them. I just wanted to point that out. However, I feel
some of them are sacred, and Pluto, Saturn, Mars are not sacred planets. Earth isn't even sacred yet.
Exactly.
And these are just angels. These are the fallen angels. Okay? And so we only have like what? Venus, Mercury, Neptune. Wait, no, not Neptune. What is the Neptune, Venus, Jupiter are the only ones that are sacred right now, and that are the ones that are helping us through all of this. So we have, Saturn, which is one of the inner planets, one of the fallen angels, and Mars are detrimental. They're not. I mean, they kind of. I mean, Mars could be a little helpful.
How do we define
what do you
a
mean?
sacred planet? How do we define a sacred planet? Like what classifies this planet over that planet to be sacred, in your perspective?
Well, a sacred planet is one that is guiding us through, not restricting us. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, it's literally, it's when you look at Mars and Saturn and what's the other ones? I'm sorry, I need to have it right in front of me and I don't. They are there to keep us at war, to restrict us, to keep us in alignment of being having control over us, so that way we don't have free will. However, Venus, though, is one that wants us to realize that we have a body, that we are creative, that we are love, that we are beauty, and you got Mercury, which is like in between. It's not really, it is considered sacred, but it's also neutral. It allows us to have our autonomy, our free, our way to think through things, so that way it helps Venus produce into the manifestations, while Mars will get you all like frustrated, and and it will get you all scrambled if you are not in tuned with these tones in the world, in by getting rid of Wi-Fi everywhere, and get rid of these movies that they're showing all the time, the medications that they are dumping into the systems and into the water. I mean, we really literally have to step out of that. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that don't feel like they have any, like maybe they don't have an opportunity to move out of that, but they do. You just have to not be afraid anymore, because that's, they're telling you that money is really important right now. No, there are so many pieces of property and people that are starting communities right now, but nobody wants to go to them because everybody's still afraid. I mean, granted, there's some people out there, but people are afraid. They want to be alone. They don't want to be with their neighbors. I mean, this is a brand new thing. Back in the 80s and the 70s, you talked to your neighbor. But ever since like they got rid of actual education, I mean, they started doing it slowly back in the 50s and 60s. But then, here comes the 80s, and they barely teach law. Because they don't want you to know that you actually have rights, and that they are this false, Orion, bullshit, Mason, religious iconography. I'm sorry, I'm not saying that properly, but, and we need to look at that, because literally Orion's nebula, it's in between his legs. It's considered the sacred fire. It's the sword. It's the laser. And it's projecting all of this shit all over us with a phallus. Okay? Being masculine. And what is happening right now on this planet is the masculine energy needs healing majorly. Okay? And that's how we get out of this. And I'm not saying the masculinity is war, because it's not. It's power, but not manipulation. It's about owning yourself, your true sovereignty. It's about providing for your community, being a part of that. It's about protecting what's sacred, actually protecting, the women, the children from this disaster that's happening. Because the feminine, and it's not just women that have femininity. We all know this. I mean, we should know this by now, that feminine, masculine is within all of us. It's not a male or female thing. And it's not this religious bullshit that they've been talking about, which is like, you know, you got to go out and get a job and you're a man. You know, no, you got to watch baseball and you're a man. Or you got to, you know, make peanut butter sandwiches for everybody and you're a woman. No, that's not what it is. We're literally talking about, you know, being able to be balanced within yourself using both. Okay, using the eagle and the snake. Okay, because those are the two symbols that, you know, especially America, if you're just going around with that eagle on your hat and your t-shirt and you're forgetting about the snake, you're gonna get clobbered. And that's kind of what's happening right now in the United States and all around the world. Because you have to balance out the two. Because one's feminine, one's masculine. One's got claws, one's got a bite. One crawls on the ground, one's up in the air. You know, it's, you know, combining the two together. And this is what the sacred planets do for us, is, you know, to work with it. The best planet you should be working with right now is Venus, period. Mercury is the other one. Okay. A Mercury is the thought, it's the mind, it's, and when you combine the two, it allows your true free will to come up. Because, you know, I'm sorry, but most of us are out here in this world having our thoughts being made for us because of movies, because of songs, because of peers, because of parents. I mean, how many times have you been told as a child that don't do this, don't do that, don't do this? And it was something that wasn't, you know, endangering you, but it was just controlling you. And this is why you were born, is to break the cycle. Break the cycle, people. I'm going to yield and let you, one of you two to come back in.
Oh, I totally can. I love how you mentioned Mercury and Venus. Those two go, well, they're closest to Earth, and they go around the sun very fast, and they go in retrograde a lot. So they're there to support us. And this being Poppy Field's project, we have, well, 3 Libras in here, but also we have Earth in our charts so those are our ruling planets, really. And sometimes people think that's bad because those planets go so fast. I mean, my brain is working overtime. That's like
Right?
the logic. I was getting so stuffed up. I apologize. I think I'm getting one of those Halloween colds or something. And so it's, you know, it's your mind and it's your heart. So in terms of like your chakras, I always think of the 3 brains. There's your heart, there's your brain, and then there's your gut. Those are the 3 main ones. They operate everything, and they have to be aligned. And so if we think of the terms of the planet and everything with those, so Mercury is the mind. Venus has a lot more to do. Well, that's kind of also air, your mind a little bit, but it connects a little bit more with the heart, I believe. The Mercury does, because it's more of
It is your heart,
the connection and the relationships. And then the sun itself is your solar plexus, and that is who you are. And so when you can connect all those and keep them physically healthy, that's why they attack our food, our water. So everybody has gut health. Raise your hand if you have some sort of digestion system. You're probably working on it. It's almost everyone. So I always say, like, raise your hand in a podcast because it's kind of funny. You can't really see everybody raise their hand. But but like they're attacking that because it affects your brain. Now they're attacking your brain because they're after that soul, and the soul lives in that heart chakra. So these are very important planets to pay attention to.
Well, those are also, I mean, minus Mars, the Venus and Mercury are the 2 closest planets to us. And they have the most movement since they're the closest to the sun. So they move around all the time. They're going in retrograde, They're going forward. They're going retrograde. They're going forward all the time. And Mars a little bit later because it's behind the Earth. But, those are the planets that are going to have direct influences. And it actually kind of brings up a pondering thought I've always had. If you lived on Venus or Mars or Mercury or any other world, I wonder what Earth would be considered as, like as a personality trait. You think of Venus being the love planet, Mercury being the communication planet, Mars being the planet of war. Like, what would Earth be?
That's right now. It is about healing the masculine. So it's the tetrahedron. It's a part of the tetrahedron. It is a part of rediscovering who you are, because it's not sacred yet. Earth is not sacred. That's why we have war here still, and we are being controlled by Orion and Saturn, which is also Apollo and NASA, which is Apollo is a little bit of the sun, but because it's reflecting that Orion energy towards us. And we need to work on healing the body, and remembering who we are. That, I'm sorry, but I don't think any of us here want to be at war anymore. Even I had a discussion with my friend Joshua the other day, and I was just sharing something with him, and he started saying, "Oh, you're excited." I was like, "No, I'm not. I'm passionate." I was like, "Please don't project that onto me, because I know who I am, and you're going to be making who I am out of your own bullshit." And he got really upset because I was drawing a boundary and saying, "I don't want you to write my story. Let me be my story, okay? Because this is all we've been doing with each other for millions, trillions of years, possibly. Who knows how long? I mean, that we've been stuck on the Ophanum wheel, which are these, alien spacecraft cogs, wheels, the spoke. We're all these spokes that are, on this wheel, and that we aren't able to break free from that. And I really, truly believe that Earth is the reenactment of this Orion energy. And the Masons and the Illuminati are using the Tree of Life to keep us here. But we can also use the Tree of Life to get out. But they're trying to teach everyone that it's satanic, that it's cult, when they're actually the ones that they're made out of saucer cults, is what they call them. Because they worship, right? They worship Baal, they worship Thoth. Even, and I hate to say this, but Jesus is even on that. Okay, even Orion. These are all the same. We need to come back into the balance of where we are, and that we do have free will within all of this. And that is what Earth is for, is so that way we can come back and see that.
And that's like really important, like part of it. Like, Nova, everything you were saying, I don't even know how to I have something to add. You pretty much said it all. And then going back to what Matthew was saying, what the Earth might be considered. That's a good question too. And I had this before I started connecting the planets with the Tree of Life and the Cabal. I had started studying the electric universe, and David Icke is one. They kind of made that a little popular, but there's a couple different shows and books about it. It's quite interesting, and it has a lot to do with everything being made up of plasma and electricity, sound. And I remember when I first started thinking, I'm coming back to your thought, Matthew, where would we be? So we're this planet that it's covered in water and it's covered in green. Well, for the most part, right? It's supposed to be a garden planet. So if you think about the chakra system is also the Tree of Life. And so these planets in a sense, are stacked. We're stacked on each other. So
Mhm.
we're between Mars and Venus. We're
Yes.
actually between them.
We're supposed to be balanced.
Yeah, and so even within the chakra system, like we are these colors of blue and green. So we're right between the throat chakra and the heart. Yeah, so we're right there. So we have to, and those are the two chakras that I have the most problem with. And yet, by over expressing them, actually, even, and so
Yeah, and that's what
what I think
happens.
about
We
it.
wonder why you're
overexpress
here.
one instead of the other.
Yeah, and so I think that's where we sit in that. I think we're right between the heart and the throat chakra.
And I'm going to pull this up right now because this is just funny. Pull yourself together. You got bitches to battle and men to destroy. And it's not men, it's these elite, which are usually white, like Soros or Elon Musk. Like, who fucking cares about any of these douchebags? They're promoted on their media that they're controlling, and they're going around, look at me, look at what I can do. I can fire somebody on live, blah blah blah, and humiliate them. Like, who the fuck would work for these assholes? I mean, you're just asking for it.
They made so much money when everybody had to close their businesses, might I add. And they we have billions and billions and we're making more and more. And people just put them up on a pedestal. Why? They're stealing your money every day and they're rubbing it in your nose. Elon Musk, I feel, is the Antichrist. I don't know.
I don't even care about him. Like,
he's my up and coming Antichrist, but who's to know? Because he started this false prophet that everyone, he bought Twitter, free speech. No, I think it's bad. I think he is all military industrial complex. He's all about AI and robots, and so
Baal. He's Orion.
He's that Orion energy all fucking day. He's like the Darth Vader energy coming down and trying to spread it around. I do not believe he's interested.
I think that he's he's kind of like Obama, where there was like a lot of good behind it, and like I think in his heart, I get the feeling he's a good person, but I think that his political and strategic point in the world puts him at a point where he's kind of choked into making decisions that aren't for the best of everybody. Like, he didn't buy Twitter. Like, that whole thing fell through. So, like,
boo-hoo.
And yeah, again, boo-hoo, but like at the same time, out of all of the, if I had to pick who am I going to hang, Bill Gates or Elon Musk, I'd probably pick Bill Gates.
I don't know. I think they all are part of it.
Which would you rather? Which would you rather, Elon Musk and Bill Gates? That's awesome. That's a tough one. I motherfucking hate Bill Gates, so use the go. That's a
oh yeah.
Like, which would you rather, Hillary Clinton or?
Well, but I think he's more like the sheep because he acts like he's innocent.
He acts like he's everybody's buddy.
I know, and Elon Musk is just like, fuck everybody. He doesn't give a shit. He's more the goat, I think.
Interesting. Yeah. Which would you rather?
Because he tries to work more with the people. I mean, Bill Gates, he like made his shit back in the 90s. He got rich. He knew where his shit was, and he doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, rich off of other people.
Yeah, he stole an idea. Windows wasn't even his idea. So, I mean, like, he fucked everybody and got away with it and became a legend because of that. I mean...
They're all front people. They were all plopped there. Like, here you go. We're just going to say, this is your fucking story. I mean, look at Zuckerberg. Do you really think he's human? Think about that. What was your first reaction? You know what I mean? Like... These are front people that are, if anything, they might not even be human. They might be the Anunnaki or the Rhyme beings, like the reptilians, they might not even be human. And there might be more AI than we let on. I think you're giving a lot of credit that they have a soul, that's nice of you, Matthew. I just think they're soulless already at this point. And have been for quite a while. Like, you can't convince me to give a fuck, but you have to watch them because they're the evil scientists trying to take over the world. Tesla
Yeah,
is making
and they're not even
vaccines.
scientists. That's the thing. They have scientists working for them.
Exactly.
To do their,
They're front people.
Luciferian bullshit.
They're front people.
Yes.
And newsflash, Tesla is making millions of vaccines. And the reason why
Yes,
is
they
because
are.
they're not medicine. They're not even fucking drugs anymore. All vaccines are going to be transferred into mRNA vaccines. That's why they're pushing for everyone to all of a sudden get a flu shot again. I don't have amnesia, and I remember when they said the flu disappeared from the planet of the Earth. Now apparently it's back. They want you to get a vaccine for whooping cough. What the fuck? Like Tesla.
Come on.
Tesla. Fuck Elon Musk. He is not your friend. He's not going to take you to the Mars.
No.
He's not going to take you to the moon. He's going to inject you with fucking technology that everyone that will regret. You don't trust that motherfucker at all. He's like fucking Darth Vader. Darth Vader. His soul
he is totally Darth Vader.
gone.
And
I
you
just
know
wanted
what's
to add
interesting
that.
is
Tesla
he's got
is
a bunch of
vaccine manufacturer.
That, and he's got a bunch of followers buying his product. And look at their cars. They're just going around. They have to use gas when they break down and diesel to charge their cars. I mean, it's all junk. I mean, so you're looking at, there's so many followers right now, that are on board with these people. And it's because they are literally, they don't even realize that they're Baal worshippers and Moloch worshippers. But they are these minions that are just going around promoting them, flaunting it around like it's not a big deal. And it is a big deal because, again, we're coming back to Poppy's Field Project. What we're talking about is Orion, and what's the similarity of Satan with Orion is that this is Orion's energy, and we are coming back to repeating the same things. But what have we learned through all of this? And I just wanted to say thank you for everyone for joining us. We've been going for about like an hour and 15 minutes. And we want to not resurrect this stuff anymore. We're wanting to know that we are being blindly led. Well, at least I'm not. I'm pretty sure most of you aren't. But, we also don't understand that a lot of the language that we're speaking is double speak. It's, like the word worship. It means actually war-ship. It's not, you're actually, following these people that are providing death on this planet and not happiness, not joy, not the Venus energy that is providing, but we are looking at Saturn, which eats children, and it tells them what to do, and it enslaves them. And we need to go back to the sun, which is our soul, and look at who we truly are, and make sure that it comes awake again. Because what we're right now in the symbology of all this, we're going back into the underworld, right? With the sun is now in the United States in the northern hemisphere. I don't know where everybody else is, but we're looking at where it's the symbology of getting back into this death. And during this time, instead of actually killing yourself, I'm sure no one's gonna do that, but just get rid of the things that no longer serve you. Like, for example, Hollywood, if you watch Hollywood movies, you're serving Orion.
Oh,
That is what the Oscars are.
Bollywood.
Yes. And I know that's hard to wrap our heads around, but it's the truth. These things are actual, they're actually satanic, or if you want to call it satanic, but it's Orion energy. That's what the Oscars for. And every single person that works in Hollywood is serving Orion, which is the underworld. And that's what we're coming into with the winter here in the United States. So we need to kill off those parts of ourselves, let that part of ourselves die, come back to community. And this is something about Poppy's Field Project, is that we are building community. We're coming not only together on a podcast, but we are creating places where we can live together, where we can grow food together, where we can spread joy, information, knowledge, actual truth, not this, not these songs that are, on the top 40 list, or not this GMO brand of Lay's or whatever the fuck. We are literally saying we've had enough. And this is what humanity, and a lot of what I would say that there's like a 50-50 where humanity has made its choice at this point to either take the mark of the beast, which is the jab. And I've believed that. I've believed that since once it started to happen.
Yes. And I think the thing is too, at this point, people can, just stop, or continue to be addicted to this thing, and you will,
right. And study the words. Know what you're saying.
And don't out of fear, stop, like all these actions, how people are how they reacting. I mean, I just had to sit back. It's out of fear, and sadly, the masculine was just completely depleted down. It was quite sad and disappointing.
Yeah, and it needs to be healed right now. The masculine needs healing. It needs so much love.
Full of how they reacted to, which was do nothing.
Yeah, and can I interject right here, right now? These are the four most powerful things. I mean, besides the 4 agreements. But if you ever have somebody that's really upset with you, and it's a friend of you, or they're just being triggered, right? They're not necessarily upset with you. They're just being triggered by the storyline that has been his story, her story, history that has been going on and on and on. These 4 things you can say to them, and you don't have to take responsibility for their feelings, their actions, because it's not your fault. Unless you slapped them or something like that. But I'm literally saying this to everybody now that is stressed out and is reacting to something I'm saying to them, because I realize they're just me. And they haven't heard this before from somebody that has hurt them, which is, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. And that is saying that for all the people, all the generations, all the epigenetics, all of the his story, her story, all this lineage that has never said this before. Even if you didn't do anything and you just triggered them, that is the most powerful thing that you can do for someone. Whether or not, usually it will calm them down. If it doesn't, that's okay, but they're going to remember that you said that. And I want to say, hey, Gio, because he also believes in that you must forgive. You must forgive yourself.
Ho'oponopono.
Yes, sir. Exactly. And, so we need to really guide each other through this. I got your hand. I got your back. Even when my friend, he texted me later, was like, hey, I just needed to breathe and la 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 la, because I was drawing a boundary saying, hey man, you're projecting your story onto me and that's not what I am. Please don't do that. And I don't think anybody's ever said that to him before. But we all need to start saying that to everybody. And if they react, when right before he hung up, I was like, I love you. And then when he texted me, he's like, oh, I feel better now. But I said, please forgive me. I'm sorry. I love you. Thank you. No matter what, take the high ground, even if it hurts you and you're a little stressed out and you're a little frustrated. Just come back to that. Know that you are, and that we all are, worthy of forgiveness and love. And that, we all get triggered sometimes, but if you can, go into yourself at that moment and don't project it onto somebody else. Because if you start going in, like, and somebody just wants to dump their shit on you right now, and this is another thing, like, hey, I call it Miriah and Matthew. I don't always do it, but sometimes I remember, hey, do you guys have a moment? Because I need someone that I just need to talk to. And we need to start asking this, because sometimes people aren't in that space, and then they will explode on you, or they just don't know how to draw their own boundaries, and then they regret that they even picked up the phone, But these are things that we can start learning from each other, is to start asking.
To interject right there, I just want to welcome anybody who's joined in to Poppy's Field Project here. We are talking about Orion and connecting the links in between our conversation here and a galactic past. And for all of you that are listening to what we're talking about currently, I'm kind of curious, since we're kind of talking about like love and forgiveness and bringing this part of ourselves to be okay, not necessarily okay, but like to forgive and let go and transmute energy. Maybe there have been parts of Orion that have these positive aspects as well, and we don't get to hear about those. We just hear about the darkness and the war and the Star Wars and like the planets blowing up and things like that. But like, I think that at least me being a person who I've lived many lives in Orion, a lot. I don't even know how many, but plenty. And a part of it, there's a lot of good that comes from Orion too, and I think we could correlate that including planet Earth here. Planet Earth, it does have a lot to offer, especially being the university that it is for souls. And I think now would be a great time to tie those two together, because any of us who have lived lives in Orion before know that there are ups and there are downs, but our souls came here for a reason. And generally, it's a positive reason at the end of the day. At least I feel that for myself, even though the third dimension is a rough reality. But I do think that there's positivity that comes out of all of it. So let's see if we can tie that in together into our talk about Orion.
I like it, because there is the dualism, and so I believe that there was and has been, and even has been on this planet. Because the Satya Yuga is right around the corner. I mean, some believe that it's actually here now, but I don't think so. I think we're still in the Kali Yuga, and we have an opportunity because we know that we can't change anybody else's mind. Anybody that's ready to hear this stuff is here right now, or in other places that are wanting to understand. And I say understand because we don't stand under anything. We are wanting to stand within ourselves and use that power with Mars, and with, which is part of like Orion. It's being able to love the part of ourselves that has been through so much with the Orion trauma, and remember that the Taurus is where we actually come from originally, which is the toroidal field, which is love and creation. And that, we can go back to that, but I really don't think that I'm curious to see where evolution is going to be end up going, because we don't want to get rid of the masculine or the feminine. So what's going to happen? How are we going to merge the two together and come back together? Like supposedly the Hyperboreans were both, and they wanted to experience themselves as an independent, and that's what happened with with Taurus, right? She birthed two sons, and they're like, "We want our independence," and then they wanted to figure out who they were, because they were so unified in the toroidal field that now they know who they are, but they also, well, maybe not. They forgot who they are. I mean, like the true self, because now it's filled with so many other stories of our ancestors that who here feels like they really know who they are. I mean, I know I'm pretty solid. Granted, there's days where I'm like, "Rah, rah, 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 rah," and I'm like, wait a minute, wait, whoa. I'm casting spells right now, banish, 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 all that idea, because it's just repeating, seeing the trigger, knowing that you're love, and that everyone around you and everything, not just people, but animals, trees, rocks, the things that are in our homes, in our daily lives, are all a part of our creation, and it all comes from our hearts, which the mind creates. And so if you're creating negative thoughts, it goes right out of the heart chakra and creates that reality. And you are responsible for that. And as a collective right now, we're all responsible for what's happening on this planet. And that has to do with our consumption, has to do with, our hygiene, what we're putting into our bodies, what we're putting into our minds. So it's mind, body, and soul that we need to be conscious about, and coming back and creating these new communities that are going to be, the evolution of what's is to come. And we can just let go of any of these delusional jerks that we were talking about. We don't need to talk about them anymore, because we know they exist. But in my reality, even though it's because I'm creating my own story, we want to go back to seeing that truth within ourselves, that we are not these movies, we're not these stars, these mob stars, these monstars, these co-stars, blah blah blah, whatever kind of star is out there. We are our own individual as well as interdependent now, and I would really like to see that balance. When we got to come back to the tree of life, where we are balanced within ourselves, so that way we can live in harmony. I just wanted to say thank you for joining us with Poppy's Field Project. We do this every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific time, which is 8 Mountain time. It's also up in Malaysia. I think it's like 10 a.m. Italy is, I can't remember. It's like 8 or 7 on Thursdays. But we are going to open up the floor to have a discussion. So I wanted to say thank you all for showing up. So if, I'm going to unmute everybody so that way we can all have, our own little discussion about this.
So just as a reminder for anybody who kind of tailed off, has this in the background, we are talking about Orion and the connections to Earth in all of the different ways, whether you feel that on a galactic sense or whether you feel that personally here on Earth. All of society, at least structured society that we know of, has traits that goes back to Orion in one way or another. So bring your thoughts in. How have you felt in this